It's going to take a second to begin the recording, and here we are. As you know, this is Mandy, and I'm here today with Ann Kennedy. And Ann is going to talk to us about digital media, so ebooks, downloadable audiobooks, downloadable films, downloadable music. If you have any questions for Ann, Ann will take questions anytime during her presentation. Just go ahead and type them into the chat, and I will read them out loud to Ann. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Ann. Take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming today. My name's Ann Kennedy. I'm Head of Emerging Technologies and Digital Content, big long title, at Licking County Library. And if you ever need to contact me, my email address is here, my office phone, and my Twitter handle. This info will be later also in the slides at the end, so in case you need that. Just to give you guys a little bit of background information, I've worked in libraries since 2005, and my library system didn't have access to ebooks until 2009 when we joined the SEO Library Consortium. But prior to that, I had been using my State Library of Ohio card to download ebooks and audiobooks, for a couple of years. But when we joined the SEO Library Consortium, the patrons were coming in saying, "How do you download?" Well, I was the only one who had done that. So kind of just by being curious about it, I developed my own job and just got into troubleshooting, showing people how to do it, teaching classes, and now I'm in charge of our computer area. I teach all sorts of tech classes, as well as doing device troubleshooting pretty much every single day. So like I said, if you want to contact me with questions, feel free to email me, call, or if you can fit it in 140 characters, feel free to tweet it at me. Okay, so just to get into a little bit here, you'll probably be encountering patrons bringing in tablets. E-readers a couple of years ago were really, really hot. Tablets have taken a lot of their market share now. So I just wanted to give you some tips for a person coming in for the first time to the library asking you for help. So if possible, do your research ahead of time. So if you haven't used a tablet before, there are a lot of user manuals out there. Now, most of these tablets don't actually come with the user manual in the box, but a lot of libraries will have a how-to guide that are really, really helpful. Also, make sure you practice the download process before showing a patron how to do it. The more comfortable you are with the process, the easier it will be to train somebody else. In a one-on-one training situation, so when they bring in that tablet to you, I always joke, don't worry about just poking around until something happens on the tablet. I mean, a lot of tablet use is trial and error, and if the patron sees that you don't know exactly what you're doing, it actually makes them more confident. Not everyone knows everything when they start, so it lets them know that they can learn and grow with it. And then admit if you don't know an answer to a question. They're going to be asking you lots of different things. Never, ever, ever make up an answer. Even if you have to do some further research, take down their contact information, find the answer, and then call them back with that information. But if you make up an answer, not helpful for them or for you. One way that we figure out all of the answers to different questions is Googling. Web searching is absolutely vital to this. Because sometimes you'll come across an error that you have never seen before. So I will always do a quick web search to find that answer. I'll use the exact text of an error because somebody else has had that problem. And they've probably written about it and how they solved a problem. So don't forget about Google. Then also ask the person you're helping how much they've used the tablet. Now, some people might be coming to you with it still in the box. Other people, it might be a daily thing that they use. By asking them, you'll have an idea of how comfortable they are with this sort of technology. Now, if they tell you they've never used it before, you need to make sure you go through the download process slowly, because they'll start feeling overwhelmed, and if you go too fast, you'll lose them. Okay? But if they are fairly tech savvy, they use it every day, you can go through the download process even faster. And I said before, they're probably going to have a lot of questions for you. Don't get overwhelmed. Just take it one question at a time. They've come to you for help, and most people are willing to kind of slow down, step back just a little bit in order to understand the full process, because they're coming to you for help. And then our final two tips, you and they can't break this device. Now, the only way to break a tablet is to get wet, which I've done, drop it and break the screen, which I've also done, or smash it with the hammer. Now, that one I haven't done. Now, the tablets that I abused so very badly still worked. With the screensaver on my iPad, I used it for over 3 months with a broken screen. My other tablet got left out in the rain. When I got home, I put it in a 5-pound bag of rice to dry out for a week, and it worked just fine. So you have to do a lot to these devices to break them. And plus, there is always a reset option. If they get to a point where it is just so bogged down and messed up, you can reset it to factory settings, and it starts from scratch. Okay? And finally, this tip is the most important one. Have fun. You're not defusing a bomb. They're coming to you in order to learn about something that they love doing, reading or watching movies or listening to music, listening to audiobooks. Have fun and encourage them to have fun with it. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about some common library downloading problems. Okay. The most common problem is that the patron doesn't know their library card number or PIN. Now, some library systems don't require a PIN in order to use the downloadable content. You will have to check with the library system that you're working with if they do require that. Library staff members will be able to check the patron's account and tell them their PIN for you. Now, if they don't have a library card, this is a perfect opportunity for them to actually sign up for one, because they do need the card in order to download the material. Now, the second most common problem is if a patron's using a Kindle and they don't know their Amazon information. That happens all of the time. You can get around this problem by having them download what's called an EPUB format instead of a Kindle book, but we'll be talking about more about that in just a minute. Another common problem is their device is not connected to the internet. It sounds silly, but it happens all of the time. In order to download any materials from a library's website, they do need an internet connection. Once they download it, they can leave the Wi-Fi or the wireless network and read their ebooks, listen to their audiobooks outside of that internet area. Okay. Mandy mentioned at the beginning about the movies and music. With the movies available from the Overdrive catalog, which we'll be looking at in just one second, you need internet to stream the movies, unfortunately. If they're on a computer, they would be able to download certain movies and watch it on their computer. But if they're on a tablet or a device like that, they will need a streaming connection for movies and TV shows. And then finally, the last common problem is that they won't actually know the website for their library's digital catalog. Now, I've listed here a few of the major websites, but you make sure to check which site your library will be using. Okay? Most of you are helping patrons who will be served by the Ohio Digital Library. This first one right here and that will be the site that I'm going to be demonstrating for all of you. Now, keep in mind the checkout and download process is the same for every site. However, the design of the website will look a little bit different. So if you do happen to be serving one of the libraries that doesn't use the Ohio Digital Library, it's the same checkout process. It just looks different and might have some slightly different titles in there. So, okay, we're going to go to the Ohio Digital Library. And before I start, are there any questions? Feel free to type them to Mandy.
Again, if you don't see the chat box, if you go up to the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you will see a little chat icon. You click that, and just make sure you send it either to the host or all attendees.
Okay, because it looks like we don't have any questions, we're going to go to the Ohio Digital Library. And here it is. First things first, whenever I sit down with a patron and bring up this catalog, what I will have them do first is sign in. It's all the way up here in the upper corner. If they don't sign in, they might not be able to see some titles. For instance, some publishers make it so that libraries have to buy them individually, their titles, and so the entire consortium can't see that. But when I log in with my library card, I'll be able to see all of the things that my library has purchased. Now, I hit remember mine, so my information was there. On this list, you'll select which library your library card is from. So in my case, it's going to be Licking County Library. But as you see with this list, there are a lot of different ones in there. So just scroll down until you find it, select it, press go, and here's where I'll enter my library card number and PIN. Now, like I said, this is the most common problem. People won't remember their PINs, but library staff will be able to look that up for you. Okay. In this case, I'm going to click on Sign In. I do recommend that people just leave this remember my login information on this device checked, because it really helps. For instance, our library card number is 14 digits long. Most people have not memorized that and might not have their library card on them at all times. So it makes it easier if the device remembers that. I'll just sign in. And you'll notice in the upper corner right here, it now just says sign out. That means I'm logged in. Now, one thing I wanted to show you on this website first and foremost that I love the most, it is this help section. If you get stuck, you're showing someone something, and you just can't figure it out, always come up here to this question mark. And on the other digital catalogs, it will be something similar. I click on Overdrive.
We do have a question. The question is, this all works for phones as well, is that right?
It does. And I'm going to be covering in more depth in a second the Overdrive app and what it'll look like on your phone. But you will actually see this exact screen on your phone, which is fabulous. It didn't used to be like that, and I hated it, but I love it now. But anyway, if you're looking, like I said, you got stuck, you can't figure it out, go to this Overdrive help section. It will ask you, what are you trying to do today? So if you're trying to download an ebook, click on the ebook. If you just want some basic, how do you do this, start with the Get Started. If you've come up against that problem and just can't figure it out, troubleshooting. They've made it quite clear. But let me click just on this ebook. Now, if I click on one of these, it brings up all of these different articles. For instance, if I was looking for information about using and downloading and everything like that on an iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, I could click here and get a step-by-step instruction. Sometimes they will also include videos, like short videos, just to work you through the process. They will have screenshots and, like I said, step-by-step instructions in here. So don't forget the help section. You noticed it opened a new tab. So if I went to click back here, it will take me back to the Ohio Digital Library. And I'm going to go back to my main screen. Now, the patrons you're helping, they might have a specific author or title that they're looking for. They can definitely search by that way. If they're just wanting to browse around, they have a favorite genre, they can search that way too. So, they come up here to the search box and click in there. Now, if they're doing this on a mobile device, at this point a keyboard will pop up, but because I'm on the computer, I'm using my regular keyboard. So in this search box, they can search by title, author, or keyword. For instance, an author like James Patterson doesn't have to be capitalized. Do use the space in between all of those. And all of the books with James and Patterson in it will pop up. In this case, I'm going to search for a Janet Evanovich book. And as you can see, I've typed that in this computer before. This will bring up all the titles with Janet and Evanovich in it. And as you see over here, there are about 110 titles in our catalog with Janet Evanovich. When I glance at these titles, I can see there's a mix of both the audiobooks and the ebooks. Can anyone tell me how? How do I know that there are ebooks and audiobooks here?
Scott has the answer for us. He says the logo's at the top. Rachel also notes by the icon.
Exactly. You guys have got it right. If I look here, this first book is an ebook because it has a little book in the corner, versus this third book there, it has a set of headphones in the upper corner. So that tells me it's an audiobook. Okay, second question of the day for you guys. I can tell all of the books on the top row, so all 4 here, are all checked out. But I can tell on this second row, 3 of them are checked in and 1 of them's checked out. How do you think I can tell that?
Okay. Shayla and Howard, or Scott, at the same time, the icons are grayed out or darkened if available. And Shayla notes they are grayed out if the logos are checked out. And Rachel also says black means the item is available, gray icon means the item is currently checked out.
You guys have got this. I'm not necessary here. You're exactly right. If the icon is black, it is checked in. And I always tell people if it's grayed out, it's checked out. Okay? Now your patrons will probably ask, well, these are, they're digital copies. Why aren't they available for everyone? Why do I have to wait while something's checked out? That is a very common question. The library systems will buy a license for each of these. So it's kind of like a physical book. When the physical book is checked out on the shelf, somebody has to get on a hold list and wait in line. Same thing here. If that license for the ebook or audiobook is checked out, you have to get in line also. Okay? Now, you might have noticed when I was trying to point out the ones that were checked out and the different formats, when I hovered my mouse over the corner, or excuse me, over the cover, it says on the book that is checked out, place a hold. Okay? When I hover over one of the ones that's checked in, it says borrow. So that's another way you can tell if it's checked in or checked out. If I click on place a hold in this case, now I've done this before with this card, so it has my email address already filled in. If you're helping a patron who's never done this before, you will need to enter an email address right here. Then you can leave this automatically borrow this title checked. What happens in that case, when it becomes available for them, they'll get an email saying, hey, this book's already been checked out for you. If they uncheck that box, once they get the email telling them the book's available, they'll have 3 days or 72 hours to check it out. If they don't, they will lose that title. It'll go on to the next person in line, just like physical books when they're on hold. This is actually a really nice feature, and personally it has helped me a lot when I'm waiting for a book, and if I might not happen to check my email one weekend, that happens very, very rarely, this book, I don't lose it. Now, if your patron says, oh, I don't check my email that much, make sure they leave this checked, because then at least that book won't be lost in that 72 hours. Okay. Let me go back to the screen of all of the Janet Ivanoviches. Now let's say I only wanted to see the titles of hers that were checked in right now. You know, I don't want to wait, I just want to read something right now. Can anyone tell me where I would go on this website to see the books that are available right now?
The left sidebar.
You guys are good. So if I click available now, the website will update, and you'll notice all of these icons are black, so they're checked in. That is really, really helpful for when a patron is, like I said, wanting something right now. But let's say they don't want Janet Ivanovich, they want something else. In this case, I'm going to click back to the home page. If you're using a different site, it will look slightly different. Here, I could select one of these links, and it will take me to that collection. I could browse the different genres. Make sure at the top, if your patron's wanting the ebooks, easiest if they go to ebook fiction versus audiobook fiction. They can also click view more to see more options for the genre. There we go. And if I scroll down, you can see all the different genres in there. Okay. Let's say if I were picking one of these, if I click view more, I'm not sure why some of these titles are under fantasy, but who knows? We'll just go with it. This now shows me, you know, 1 of 24 of 12,000 titles in this collection that have been labeled fantasy. And again, if I want to see just the ones available right now, click available now. And there we go. Like I said, I'm not quite sure why some of these are popping up in fantasy, but who knows? So I showed you the process of how to put something on hold for a patron. Let's check something out. Now this process is exactly the same for the ebooks, audiobooks, streaming movies, the music, everything like that. What I tend to do when I'm showing someone something, I check out ebooks because they take a lot less time to download, and there are a lot of things in here that might interest them. There are a lot of audiobooks too, but they're more likely to find something in the ebooks that might catch their interest. Okay. So why don't we do this 11 birthdays? Oh, and something I almost forgot to tell you. Let's say I want to see a little bit more information about this book. You know, reading a summary, seeing when it was published. If I click on More, if I scroll down, and click here, it's like reading the back of the book, just getting that little summary. Be sure to show that to your patrons, because sometimes they may be coming across a title that they've never heard of before, and this little summary will give them an idea of, yes, I want to read that right now, or no, I don't. Also on this page, it will show me the different formats that are available. I'll be talking about that in just 1 second, so keep that in mind. It will also show me how many copies there are. Now, your patrons might ask you about this. Mandy, I can't remember how many libraries now are in the Ohio Digital Library?
178.
So, you know, 1 or 2. One library might have bought a copy of this. This book isn't that popular, but there might be something like a Jana Dovanovich book where there might be 78 copies of this title in the system. It will tell here if the book is checked in. It will say however many copies are available. If it's checked out, this will also say join the waiting list, and this will be available 0. It will also tell you how many patrons are in the waiting list ahead of you underneath this section. Okay. That will kind of give a patron a little bit of an idea of how long they might have to wait for a title. For instance, if there was only one person ahead of me for this book, I know it's not going to be that long.
We have a question. What is a wish list about? Why use that instead of just putting a book on hold?
That is a fabulous question and right what I was going to say. So thank you. If you add something to a wish list, how I think of a wish list is you want to remember it, but you don't want to put it on hold right now. For instance, I came up to this problem of I had too many books on hold. Okay? You can have 12 on hold at one time. I had hit that number, but I still had some more that I wanted to remember. So I added them to my wish list. I click right there. Overdrive will let you know, hey, this is available for checkout in your wish list. So even though I couldn't put it on hold, I still remembered it. It was still in my information. And I'll show you once we hit the account in just a second. A lot of patrons will do that if they don't want to check it out right now. I didn't use it for a very, very long time, but then I got to that point where I had too many things on hold. So you don't have to use it, but it's kind of nice for it to be there. Any other questions before we check something out? Okay, because Mandy's not saying anything, we're going to move on. Let's check this one out. If I click on Borrow, that's it. It's done. It's checked out. Most patrons are really amazed at how fast that takes. No time at all. Okay? If the patron wasn't signed in, instead of saying Borrow, it would say, that button would have said sign in for availability. But because the first thing that I had done was sign in, we didn't have that screen. Now, does everyone remember where I was talking about formats? If I click on this download, select one format, here's where I have the option to pick a Kindle book or an EPUB book. Now, if they're on a Kindle, they can use the Kindle format. For all other devices, though, they'll use this EPUB format. Okay. And I do have people that will use a Kindle Fire tablet, and I will actually have them download the EPUB version instead of the Kindle, because sometimes they don't have that Amazon information. Someone else set the device up for them and didn't give them the email address, or they didn't write down the password. If I did the Kindle book version, I would need my Amazon account. So sometimes it will simplify things by just doing the EPUB ebook and then clicking on confirm and download. Now, do I see a question, Mandy?
Yes, just a second. Can you use the Kindle format through the Kindle app on other devices?
Good question. Yes. Yes, you can. And then when you click on this, let me show you this. I'll say Kindle book. It will also give you a little bit of information here. And if I click confirm and download, oh, I'm signed in with my personal account. Whoops. This will bring up this Get Your Digital Library Loan. If I hadn't been signed in already, it would have asked me for my account info, the email address I signed up for this with, and my password. And then over here, you'll notice it looks very similar to if you were buying a Kindle book, but instead of saying something like, click here to buy, it will say Get Library Book. And then they can choose which device to send it to. And I'll just do this. And this is going to show up on my phone, and then I'll be very confused. Then this is telling me, okay, it's there. The next time I turn my iPhone on and open that Kindle app, that book will be here.
And we have one other question. EPUB does not require the Amazon account, so would we ever use it anyway?
Do you mean would you ever use the Kindle format? Well, I tend not to show people the Kindle format simply because of that stumbling block of they might not remember their account information. Plus, I'm trying to get them used to using the EPUB format because there are some books in here that don't have a Kindle version. And the EPUB format, if we're using a tablet, we tend to use the Overdrive app.
Yes, we do mean the Kindle format.
Okay. Did that answer that question? Since I'm not seeing anything, I think it did. If not, we can grab it back in a second. Now, before we go back to the presentation of some screenshots of the Overdrive app in use, I want to tell you a little bit about this button right here, the Read in your browser. Now, a lot of the people you're helping will get really enthusiastic, and it says, hey, it says Read right there. Well, if they click on this, it will actually open the book in their browser. Okay? So like a streaming movie, they need an internet connection to view this title. So if they leave the internet area, they won't be able to use this title anymore. So sometimes it works. If they have Wi-Fi at home, they're definitely welcome to use this. You can also, starts getting confusing here, but you can also download these Overdrive Read formats to a tablet. But I tend to just show them download EPUB and put it in the app. So let's quickly return to the presentation, and I will show you the Overdrive Media Console app. Now, this app is used for any smartphone, any mobile device, tablets, things like that. These are free apps from their device's app store, and it is called the Overdrive Media Console, but if you start typing in Overdrive, you'll find it there. And that's what the logo looks like. The first screen that you'll see when they install the Overdrive app is this one here. It will be asking them to sign up for an Overdrive account. I'm going to ask Mandy a question here. Can they use ebooks without the Overdrive account?
Yes, certain types of ebooks. There's a format of ebooks called Open EPUB, and those are unrestricted and they can be used on anything. But for everything else, you would need an Overdrive account, or if you're using the computer, you can also use an Adobe ID.
Thank you. I tend to have them instantly just sign up for an Overdrive account. This is something that they probably have not done before. And most people ask you, oh no, another account. Now, all of the safety people, or all of the people concerned about safety will say, don't write passwords down. You will probably be helping individuals who might be older, a little bit less tech savvy, though I know a 93-year-old who is extremely tech savvy, so don't generalize with age. But most people won't remember their password. So when they enter all of their information, I do recommend that they write this password down and that they write down what it's the password for. So if someone is there with you and they're taking notes, I'll usually tell them, okay, write this down, Overdrive, then their email address, and then their password. So they'll fill out all of this information, create a password. You see it's telling you here it needs to be 8 characters long. They can check this box. If they do that, Overdrive will email them recommendations based on what they check out and put on hold. So some people like that, some people don't. It's not required. And then they will click sign up. And this is the next screen, basically, that they would see. This would be the app. It's telling me, oh, hey, I don't have any items checked out right now. If I clicked on this menu in the upper left-hand corner, or if I took my finger and swiped, it will look like this. Now it's telling me, oh, I don't have a library catalog saved here yet. So I'm going to click Add a Library, and see it's telling me here, I can search by library name or postcode, but make sure to have my card ready. And here's where I would type in. For me, it's easier to do the zip code, but you could type in the name of the library, either one. In this case, I looked up our zip code, 43055, and here's the Ohio Digital Library. If I click on this, it will take us to our catalog, but I want to save this library. So I will click on the star, and it will bookmark it or add it to my system. Now, if the patron you are helping has multiple library cards for multiple systems, for instance, because we are so close to Columbus where I am, they might have a card from my county, they might have a card for Columbus, for Arlington. They could list all of these library systems in the same spot. They would just have to do a search for each of those library zip codes. So like I said, they would click on the star, it bookmarks it, and there it is, right in the list. So now when I want to go to the library catalog, I will click there. Does everyone see? It looks exactly like what we were doing on the computer.
Hey, Ann, we have another question. Is there a different app or a different process to get Overdrive for a new Kindle? I've had 2 new Kindles come in, and I've had issues getting Overdrive to download. The only way I can get it to download is by allowing unknown installation of apps.
Yes, with the newest version, it is a little buggy. What they were asking about was that is a setting in the device's settings. You will change its toggle on the new Kindle Fires to say, yes, I want to download this from an unknown source. Unfortunately, when they did the newest update, we have to jump through a couple more hoops with that. Yeah, it's a little frustrating. But okay. I said that this looked exactly like what we were doing on the computer. If you did the checkout process on a computer, for instance, we got that Jana Jovanovic book, all I would have to do is hit sign in, figure out the library card number, enter the PIN, then I would go to account. You could also start with this entire process on the app itself. Depending on the tech savviness of the person, as well as their vision, sometimes it is easier to do on the computer, but most of the time I will do the entire process on their device. Like I said, once you have something checked out, you can click on Account. And because I was taking screenshots of a different book than the ones we had checked out, this is a different title. But this is what they would see, what they currently have out. They would do the same process, choose their format. In this case, they would be choosing the EPUB. And in a matter of seconds, the EPUB will download. Okay. Excuse me, I'm going to go back a second. You'll notice, like I said, this looks a lot like what it did on the computer. The main difference is, because I'm still within the app, we have the app directions, refresh, and going to do something else, as well as the menu up here, those 3 lines. When you tap on that, it returns us back to the main screen of the app, where my book will have downloaded and where I will see that. Then when they're ready to read the book, or if this was an audio book that they were wanting to listen to, all they would have to do is tap on the cover, and if it's an audio book, it will start playing. Or if it's the ebook, I can start reading. Like I said, I tend to like downloading ebooks just because they take so little time to download. You can definitely show somebody an audiobook. You can also show them movies. But remember, the movies, they have to stay in the internet to view it. And the audiobooks will take a little bit longer to fully download. For instance, I just downloaded the Game of Thrones. It was 39 parts and took me a very, very long time to start downloading. Yes,
we have a question. Is Overdrive an app that is a nationwide entity rather than an Ohio library-only app?
It is actually a global app. We're really lucky in Ohio. It was actually started up in Cleveland, so it's kind of a hometown product here, but it is international. I mean, I met at a conference last year, I met people from New Zealand who were there talking about it. There are definitely heavy use in Ohio, but it is available in every single state. Did that answer that?
Yep, I believe so.
Okay. So in this case, we're taking a look at an audiobook, or excuse me, an ebook, not an audiobook. If somebody wanted to, and this will be the same for every single tablet, if they want to go to the next page, they'll tap on the right-hand side. If they want to go back a page, they'll tap on the left-hand side. So just think of it as flipping through a book. You're flipping through from this side over to here to go forward in the book, and you're flipping the page from this side there to go back. Okay? Now in this case, I took these screenshots with an Apple iPad. So if I tap in the center of this book page, let's see, there's a menu at the bottom here and a menu at the top. That only appears when I tap in the center. A lot of your patrons will get confused by that. They'll be trying to find something, they won't be able to do it. Remind them to just tap in the center. Now in this case, Apple has the settings down here. Other Android devices will have the settings up here instead, and they might look a little bit different. Just kind of look around and use a little bit of common sense to see what looks like it might change things. Let's say I wanted to make this text bigger. If I click on these A's, see that little tiny A makes it smaller, big A makes it bigger. They can also change the font. I personally have never done that. They can also choose if they want a white background with black text. This night version, this is really helpful if somebody's saying, you know, their partner's next to them trying to fall asleep and there's this really bright light at night. They can use this black background and it makes it much easier to read in the dark. Their third option is this sepia. It makes it so it's a light brown background. Sometimes for other patrons, that's easier to read. Not as much strain on their eyes. And remember, like I said, this menu on other devices might not look exactly like this. Those options might be up here. Okay? But think of tablets as they're all kind of the same thing. They all do similar functions. If I click here, oh, excuse me. I didn't mean to do that. Love technology. If you click up here, you'll see it looks different than this menu option. Bullet points, it's actually the table of contents. So I could flip to this chapter 4 by just tapping there, and it's quite easy to jump through books. Any questions with how to do an ebook? If they were listening to an audiobook, they would have a big play button in the middle and a forward and backward button down here. And they would also see the cover of the book right in the middle. Now let's say they want to go back to their shelf where they had all of the titles that they had downloaded to this device. They can click right there and it will take them back to that main page of the app. Right here. Let's say they're finished with this book. It only took them 2 days to read. They can actually return it early. I tell as many people about this as possible because when I have a long hold list in front of me, I want to get that book just that little bit faster. If they're ready to return this title, all they have to do is hold their finger down on the title, and in this case on the iPad, this will pop up like here, delete, return, or share. Share is, you know, they want to tell people on Facebook that they're reading it, tell it on Twitter, whatever. Delete just takes it off of their device, not off of their account. Return will do that. So if they tap on return, say, are you sure? If they weren't sure, they could hit cancel. But if they are, they'll just hit return. and the book automatically gets checked in. Now, depending on your library service, they might have some slightly different lending rules. For the Ohio Digital Library, they can get 10 items out at a time for 21 days. Now, most of your patrons will ask, well, what happens on that 22nd day? The item returns itself. So they'll never have to have overdue fees. They'll never have to, come back in with it and have you show them how to do it. The next time they would open this app, it would say, this item has been returned. Do you want to get rid of it in here? And instead of saying expires in 21 days, this book would say expired in red. Okay. I really like the return feature. Like I said, when I'm on a long hold line, I want everyone ahead of me to return those books as quickly as possible. But if they don't remember to do that, no big deal. Any questions with that? Okay. So my last slide, remember these things. Go slowly. If you're helping a person who hasn't used the device much, they'll be very confused if you go too fast. Okay? Try not to use any jargon or as little as possible. But if you do have to use it, explain what it means. Now, an example of this is when I first started doing these classes, I had to explain, well, what's Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is wireless internet. And then I would say, it's available in libraries, restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. So if you're using jargon, remember to explain it. Because a lot of people have heard it before, but they've never actually been told what it is. Third, make sure the patron does this whole checkout process themselves. A lot of people learn by doing, and there'll be a greater chance that they'll remember the entire process if they've done it on their device. And then the part that I love about that section, or about that website, is the Overdrive Help section. If you get stuck, check out Overdrive Help. And then don't forget, this is a fun site. It's for reading, something that they enjoy. Tell them, make sure to have fun.
We do have a question. Is a patron's account filled with both physical library materials as well as e-materials, or might they check out full library card limit of physical materials, but then check out e-materials above and beyond that?
Oh, that is a great question. The two right now don't talk. So if the patron does check out the full number of physical items they can get, yes, in most library systems, and the Ohio Digital Library specifically, they can then check out additional digital contents. Okay? So yeah, if they do all their physical, max that out, they can then go check out books and movies and audiobooks and everything like that. Great question. Like I said, don't forget to tell them they have fun. This is a fun thing to do. They're reading or watching movies or things like that. Okay? And finally, if you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me. Here's my email address and my office phone. You might have to leave a message and I'll get back to you. And like I said, if you can fit it in 140 characters, feel free to tweet at me. And just a fair warning, if you follow me on that, you're going to get a lot of knitting and a lot of random other stuff. Any more questions? I really encourage you to practice this yourself, because like I said at the beginning, if you've practiced this, it'll make it a lot easier for you to show someone else. And you might decide that, hey, I really like checking out these ebooks. Any questions? Well, I'm not.
It's not a question, but it's a big thank you.
Yes, thank you all all for attending. Mandy has been recording this, and it will be available. I believe, are you sending out a link, Mandy?
I will. It takes at least a day for the video to compile, but we will have it after then. Oh, let's see. We have another thank you come in. Thank you, Anne.
Okay. Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate you letting me talk to you. And if you have any questions, don't worry. Nothing is a stupid question at all. Feel free to email me or feel free to call.
Yay!
Okay.